They want to golf, I think we do it. Going for the meeting of the CEDC for Columbia County. With the reading of the minutes, but everybody's read them.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving along to the portfolio dashboard.
Thank you, Ken. Loan client A has been on this list for a good long time. He normally does return my calls and he has not returned my last phone call, so we'll probably engage Andy to send a letter to him demanding payment. Loan client B, we've been pushing them to get caught up and we just today saw that they made a second payment in the month of May, so we think we're on our way to getting caught up. Loan client C is in arrears and has been for a while. They are in constant touch with us, but Mike and I are going to talk about having Andy send a letter to those folks as well. And loan client D, we did just receive a payment from them on Friday, so they're current. And I'm happy to entertain any questions on the loan portfolio dashboard.
Any questions?
And I think the other thing is that, to the extent that, all of them have, equity in their business and in the property that secures the loan, even if we're behind it somewhere else.
Yes.
So I think that, maybe one we're really concerned about, but the rest I think are covered, we can work through.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry.
I made the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was like,
But you can make it.
I'll second.
Either way, we got a motion made and seconded. All in favor?
I heard this motion and I was like.
So moved. Moving along to the first loan for today's Tiny Town Farm Store.
Tiny Town Farm Store located in Taconic. They're a retail farm store operation. Their request of us was $50,000 that we will split between our two loan funds with a monthly payment of $870.57. Interest rate of 7.75%. Purpose of the loan being equipment, inventory purchases with some working capital, and the collateral being a lien on business assets and the personal guarantee of the principals. It's a Tiny Town Farm Store in Taconic.
All right, I've got a question on this one right before we go any further. Is this the old Taconic Orchards?
No.
No, this
Okay.
is not.
No, then it's fine.
No, but I was curious
No,
too. I looked
because-
on the map at I was just curious and I don't know if I missed this. They don't own the property where they're opening the store.
I believe he does.
Oh, he owns
One
it,
of the
okay.
partners.
One of the
One of the
principals
partners.
does.
And then they're putting the store in the small barn, not the main house?
That's
correct.
Okay, so the renovation for that is not included or does not need to be covered by the loan?
So I did a site visit on Thursday and that is correct. The funds, he has the funds to complete the renovation. The building inspector was supposed to have come on Wednesday and wasn't able to get there. But they're doing everything by the books and he's an experienced property owner and business owner.
Where is this? The farm stand or farm store?
It is on Route 82 as you're heading toward the Taconic Parkway. There's a liquor store on the right. It's the building right next to the liquor store.
Right before the gas station kind of?
Just
Yeah,
before the
right.
gas station.
The old wooden nickel building.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
It's great.
And anyway,
It'll be great for that.
they are also the recipients of a micro enterprise grant and they went through the training program.
I think their experience is really the strength here. It's a tough location on it,
Yeah.
brutal business, but they've done it before, they have good outside income.
Any other questions?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Now I have it.
Motion made and seconded to approve this loan. All in favor? Excuse me, so moved. Moving along to IMBY, IMB.
Yeah, with your permission, Ken, I'm going to switch the order of the next two and we'll talk about Friends of the Public Square next.
Okay.
We've been talking to this group for well over a year. They are looking for $100,000 bridge loan that would come from the CEDC loan fund. It would be interest-only payments for 12 months, and the anticipation is that they will then be reimbursed by the grants. We have copies of the grant agreements, and then they will repay CEDC, we'll decide within 5 days, maybe upon reimbursement of those grants, we can set those terms. If it is not repaid in full over, within 12 months, then we will amortize that loan over 72 months at 5%. So, once again, it is a bridge loan. It allows them to pay for the activities they need to perform in order to be reimbursed by the grant. And, we have done this, we did twice. We did a very similar thing for, Philmont beautification when they were waiting for grant money to come in.
And there are 2 grants, 3 grants right now.
There are 3.
There's a grant that was obtained for them by Assemblymember Barrett, 150,
100, isn't it?
I want to say it was 125.
125.
Okay.
And yeah, it was 250 together, and Senator Hinchy. And there's, and they're through the dormitory authority. And then there's a $500,000 Empire State Development Grant. I think that we have the funds. It's a secure grant. It would be subject to the approval of I don't want to say the city, because then it would infer that it would be the whole council, but it'd be subject to the approval of the mayor. Because they can't go forward on the project as the Friends of Public Square without the city giving them access to the property. I think, it is a project that I think has community support. I think they've raised money on their own. They do have these grants. And $100,000 when they're looking at $750,000 in grants, I think it gives us some security. It was, as Martha said, we've done this for a USDA grant in Philmont. We did this for Hudson Development Corporation for $200,000 interest-only loan for the CAS property. We had on that property where we took 1 year debt service reserve. And we do want them to pay interest only, so they remember they have a loan.
So do they know that they're already getting this grant from the dormitory authority?
Yes, they signed the contract. But obviously the city owns the property,
Mhm.
and we're working through the city to be sure that how do they get the grant? Who's gonna do the work? Who's gonna sign the contract, and who submits for the reimbursement? And, we would make sure that that this loan, if approved, would be subject to ensuring that, the city is in support of
Yeah,
it.
and I think that the issue is there is a resolution between the Friends and the city to do this, so there's no problem per se globally, like conceptually doing this. I just know recently there's some, and I just don't know how it's resolved. There are some questions about what work specifically is like a phase 1's gonna be done.
That's what I was
So
wondering,
we
there's a
just want-
timeline that's stipulated by
Yeah.
that grant.
Well,
Do
and
you know
also
what that
it's just
schedule is?
what work specifically is gonna be encompassed, and has the city approved that? That's all I wanna make sure of.
That was my question, Tim.
What does Friends of Public Square Hudson want to do with the $100,000?
This is for phase 1. It's on their website. They do show the work that's
Oh,
going to
okay.
be
Oh,
accomplished.
okay.
They've engaged a very well-known landscape architectural firm to do
And,
that work.
and I think, the other thing is, they're going to draw down, on it, like a line of credit,
Yeah.
basically. And, the state has advised me that they can apply for, interim reimbursement. Often you can't get reimbursed until the entire project is completed, and we weren't gonna do it if that was the case. But, it would bring in, another $5,000 a year in interest, and it would put us in the position of having, provided a community service.
They have done a good job of engaging the community. I went to the public forum they held at the library. I've been to 1 or 2 of their fundraising events. They are sending two of their board members to the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce Board meeting this month to inform them as to what the project is all about.
And this is just phase one now,
Yes,
and so this funding is only for phase one.
those dormitory authority grants are for phase one.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about the rest of the timeline because we don't have it,
Right.
and, but we don't need it.
Couple
Okay.
of questions, one is 100,000 enough, if they've got this 250.
I think because they can roll it.
Right, when do they, so that's one thing that I would just wanna be, really clear, again, a sources and uses table would be very helpful to know. How much they need to get to that first reimbursement point, and do they have whatever delta there may be along with some contingency? I guess to Martha's point is understanding who's doing the work and that they've done successful projects and that they've gone through the state grant process. I think an interest reserve would be appropriate because they have no cash flow, right?
Right.
So if it gets to the end of the year and the project's not done and now we amortize it, where's that $1,610 a month coming from? That, those are the risks. And then also, I know I looked at the board and they seem, like a lot of heavy hitters, but boards also can fall apart very quickly. And, I've seen a very similar situation that did not go well, where the board, there was just one, egos on the board get in play, a bunch of people resign. Now they have basically a non-functioning board. And no professional staff, and nobody's filling out the reimbursement. And guess who's holding the bag? So, yeah, I know you can't really ask for a personal guarantee, and there's no collateral, there's no cash flow.
If you can't,
It's a scary.
there's no property to put a lien on.
Right, exactly.
They don't own it.
There's no lien, there's no personal guarantee. And there's no cash flow from the underlying organization, so the only thing that can go right is that work and that project has to get done, and then. But then aren't they gonna need that 100 to roll
Right, but
into the next phase?
we were only going to use it against the
Phase one.
dormitory authority grant, the two dormitory authority grants.
And then that will be enough, so
Well,
they
and
can,
then they'd have to come back and start over with us.
right, so how much, so I guess my question for the dormitory grants is, how much? We gotta make sure we have the estimates from the contractors and really know how much it takes to get to the point where they can be reimbursed. And that they have the rest of the funds. Cause you don't wanna loan them 100 when they need 200, and now all of a sudden.
Well,
The
when do
only way
they,
out is to do another loan and.
You stated that the two dormitory grants are for 250,000,
150 each, 125.
so 250 for both.
Right.
well, when do they plan to start? Just because I can think of a situation in Catskill years ago, the village got a $23 million grant for infrastructure upgrades for the sewer system.
Mhm.
They did not act quickly enough in starting the plan. So now, it's going to cost 30 million and they don't have the additional 7 million. This is obviously a very big scale project, but do they already have a schedule of starting? So that, the money doesn't, so that their quotes are current?
I think they were hoping to start this month actually, or last month. It was always to take place this summer. Yeah.
Well, I think, what I'm hearing is that we should have them come in at the next meeting. And by then we'll have a clearer picture of what's going on with the city. We can have them submit the items that you've identified, Justin, as well as getting a indication from the dormitory authority that if we provide them with an assignment of the grant monies, that they'll honor it.
Yeah, the timeline and the.
Right, because, they can assign the grant money to us, but if the grant money,
If they don't perform, then there is no grant money.
Right,
or if the grant money is released to them and.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not worried about them not paying us if they get the grant money, I'm
Yeah.
worried about them not getting the grant money.
And we will confirm that, because they did look at it as a revolving line of credits, right? So they'd spend 75,000, they'd submit for it, they'd get 75 back. They would
So
pay
they
us
are
off
allowing
and then we'd extend it.
So the dormitory is allowing that to
yeah.
submit, it's not a full reimbursement
No, it's
grant?
not like-
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
nice.
there are grants that,
Full
as you know,
reimbursement.
where until you complete the
Right.
entire project.
And what's the reason for the interest rate being lower than the normal interest rates?
That is what we have
Or
been
not for
charging
profit.
nonprofits.
Oh, okay, I figured that.
Right, why don't we just do that? And
Yeah, no, I just think it's something to be very, very careful with.
So you wanna table this
table
one?
that, please, Mr. Chairman.
We're gonna table this one until next month?
Well, you said they're gonna either come with more.
Well, I mean, with,
Well,
I
we
kind of,
could, couldn't we approve it at the full board meeting if they make a presentation and?
we've never had a presentation at the full board meeting from anyone, and
Yeah.
I don't think they
Okay,
want
so
to
that's
start
not
with it.
what, so what were you saying?
Well, we wait till
would
they-
pre- would
Wait,
come
wait
and
till they
talk to the
come to our
office.
meeting.
Come to the June meeting and present to you.
Oh, to the loan committee, okay.
What kind of triggered me in changing my schedule in my own mind was, why are they going to the chamber, not to us?
That's true.
Yeah, but if they wanna start, you know, I mean,
I believe they do want to get started, but,
I would guess they have other things to resolve with the city.
like you said, yeah, I mean, they obviously need the city's permission.
They can start July 1.
Yeah, it's a good time to start a project now, just
Yeah.
because it gets pretty hot in August.
Because I think they do have some fundraising they've done, that they have money in the
Well, I
bank.
see they have supporters, like, like the bank's charitable foundation was on there and other things, so I'm assuming they've gotten some smaller grants
But I'm sure they
or
have,
raised funds.
and, you know, the board members, donations, but once you start getting into spending big bucks. Things can get
Right,
very,
Fast.
very different, very quickly. There's a lot of egos on nonprofit boards.
I would,
Can happen.
and we'll table this till more information comes in.
Well, we're gonna get sources in use, we're gonna get, the timeline for the
Estimates from the
200,
Contractors, yeah.
who's doing the work, how much is it cost? And we're going to get, how do we protect the organization here that we're only dealing with the scope of work approved by the dormitory authority for those 2 grants?
Right, and that we reasonably believe they have the remainder of the funds to complete that.
And when that project work under those 2 grants is completed, this loan is due and payable, and if they want another loan, they come back.
Right, and then.
That's how it
So it
starts.
doesn't
They need
just go on
approve- they
for-
need approval.
You need a second approval.
Well, that loan's over and they have to
So,
come
yeah,
for-
this is a term, it's a term loan, right?
But we're not gonna get them the 100,000 on day one.
So it is like a line of credit or a multi-draw.
it would have to be a multi-draw because we really can't do a line of credit.
Right.
Yeah. But we have to use our CEDC loan, we can't use the
Right.
SBA money. I think
So-
we've got a
Yeah,
good
so
path.
then that also, when it's a multi-draw, that also lowers that interest obligation because. they're
Well,
paying
But
interest on it.
but presumably they're gonna, I guess, when I think about it, they're gonna draw the 100. And then when they get the money from the state, they're gonna pay us. And then we start over again by giving them the 100 back. I wanna clear it each time they get money from the state.
Then it would not be a new loan each time.
No, well, that's why I think we can't do it through the, it's hard to do on our county, on our down home,
Yeah.
but we can do it as a grid note, basically.
That makes sense.
And I'll get some more clarification from the dormitory authority, people that are in charge of the reimbursement. How long does that take, what's the
Yeah, because I mean,
process?
that's the only way out, right? That's the only way to get paid back. So we just have to be like rock solid.
And that's why, this is better than and then it becomes a 4-corner project. And we're loaning 100 against 250. And when we come back, and if you determine that that project can be completed for the 250, such that the dormitory authority provides the full funding, then we're okay.
Right, but then I guess they wouldn't have to have the other 150 because they could get partial reimbursements.
So our 100 will, as I think of it now, will be out, but I do think we wanna get the payment from the dormitory authority each time so that if there's something going wrong, we're not getting the
Yeah,
last
that's why I
one.
wonder if it should just be a new loan each time, just so it can come back to. so they come back to us.
Let me find out what the timing is of how fast that money's gonna be
And how-
spent, and
I don't know how our software works,
Yeah.
whether we, you know, if you pay a loan down, can you then draw
That's
it
what I-
again?
That's what I was, if you pay early instead of.
I was thinking
the
multi-draw
full
where
term
you
of
do
it.
like a piece at a time, but then it's all paid back at
Yeah,
once.
one lump.
I'd rather see CEDC have the control of them having to come back each time. And
well, I
be
think it's difficult if it's the same 250, the work that's in the 250. Because we don't meet, I mean, it would,
Yeah.
but let's get more information.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is there's a willingness to understand it and perhaps approve it, but we want to see what protections we have.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, we wanna help them, but.
And look at the timeline of the project and the
It's the
timeline
biggest
of the
loan
loan.
we've seen, and it's also the riskiest, so it's, you know.
Okay.
Right, and we'll table that loan for now,
It's just not gonna go to.
all right, and moving along to the INVI.
Okay, indeed. This is an online, media website where, citizen journalists can post once they've registered with the site. It's been in existence for about 10 years. Mike and I met with the principals when they first were developing the
It's
concept.
for profit.
It is for profit, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not, they don't have a 501c3.
Oh, like just Hudson, so they report.
Yeah, they cover Columbia County, and I think they've branched into Berkshire County, but I'm not sure they have people posting over there yet. This is a $15,000 microloan and, you know, at 7 3/4, it's a working capital loan. The payments are just over $300 a month. The client qualified for a rapid recovery loan, a $15,000 loan during COVID. And that was at 3.75. They have one more payment to make on that loan. And so basically this would be restarting the clock, and the security, once again, is lien on business assets and the personal guarantee of the principals.
I had a concern as to the reputational risk we would have based on what gets published, but what Martha told me that anyone can publish there. You know, so we're not endorsing, they don't have an editorial policy other than
Right,
you could post, we could post our annual meeting there just as any other group could, because sometimes there's things on there that because of the nature of how they're written are controversial.
I agree.
One of the most recent posts I saw was by Jim Calvin. It was Gus and Helen Kozel receiving their award. So.
No, I think we would be more cautious if there was a editorial policy and people, others, certain people are restricted from balancing out the commentary.
Any questions on this loan?
Justin,
Sorry.
Justin,
It's 15,000, I'll.
Yeah.
I'll-
Entertain a motion,
Move it.
I'll second.
motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Anything else? No
Update on
no
where we
public
are.
comment.
Update on where we are with our $1 million addition.
We've been approved for our $1 million loan from the SBA. That loan has closed and we are getting ready to request our first drawdown. We have a pretty strong pipeline, and so
Good job.
we're happy about that. You know, I do have some concerns. I don't know if this is the, you know, the general economy, but we track where people are with their sales tax, for example. There are quite a few businesses that are in arrears. I know we're just coming out of that difficult period for retail. But we're keeping a close eye on it.
Like on their sale, like if they're not selling as much as they normally were.
No, if they're not paying their sales tax in full every quarter, yeah.
Can you leave notification if people are behind?
No, I have to go and check, but, you know, I think what happens oftentimes is they file their tax return, but they don't either have the money in the bank or they don't have the full amount, and so then they show they're on the warrant list for New York State. And it's not uncommon to see businesses there, especially this time of year, and they do allow them to
Essentially
get caught up.
borrow.
Exactly, right.
Penalty isn't as high as the interest rate
But I think the interest rate is 14%.
on their sales tax.
I think so.
Wow.
I might be wrong. just concerns.
There's sort of like performance indicators we track, or if you look at hotel vacancy, or I mean, it's interesting to see how we could see some other
The
metrics.
real interesting thing is that, last year, Columbia County was down over $1 million in sales tax. And, this year, we're ahead.
Does Columbia County share their sales tax revenue with the towns at all? or
Yes,
is there
they're,
one that does that?
8% sales tax, 4% the state keeps.
Okay.
County gets 4%, and they share 30% of the 4%. With the towns based on population.
See, Green County doesn't, but they've been getting like scrutinized lately. So I
And
wonder.
do they share by industry? Because I know historically, like, cars are the biggest driver of sales tax, and auto dealers had a booming
Right.
quarter, because they were trying to buy vehicles ahead of whatever tariff.
But there's.
Gasoline.
There's a
So,
hotel.
so all the car
Also-
dealers crushed it, so.
Yeah.
Those numbers might be artificially inflated from cars and
They-
not necessarily
The
mean.
difficulty is they don't get the quarterly report on where the funds came from until like the next quarter.
Yeah.
So
So
you
you
kind
can't
of,
track it.
well, you can track it, but it's not,
Right,
you can't react.
that to me is more, right,
You
to
can't
know
manage
like
it.
what industries they came.
Automobiles and gasoline
Sure.
and construction are the three top sales tax here.
What about the hotel, what is it?
There's
that
only a
4%
hotel tax in
hotel
the
tax
city.
Hudson?
It's only in the city.
Yeah, did that,
Well, when we look at,
or occupancy tax?
it's for,
Is it right?
yeah, it's 4% on the room rate. So when you're looking at a IDA project in Hudson, it comes, and you think about what is the IDA giving up? They're giving up, 15% of 30% of 8%, right, or 4% that the county gets, so that's de minimis. They're giving up the mortgage recording tax on a project, but there's a 1% IDA fee, so if you have an 80% mortgage, you're basically paying the mortgage tax. And they're giving up pilot payments, the payments in lieu of taxes. So when you add what they're getting a 1% IDA fee. They're getting more payments in taxes than they would have gotten if the building stayed empty or was a piece of vacant land for the next 10 years. And they're getting sales tax and 4% bed tax. So when you're looking at Hudson, you know, the state really wants you to have at least a 1-to-1 ratio, that whatever the cost of the benefits are being in real dollars matched over the 10-year pilot payment. But when you do that analysis, it's a 12-to-1 benefit to Hudson to build a hotel. Where it's probably a 2.5 to 1 benefit to build an apartment house. But then there's political and social opinions as to whether we have enough hotels or not. And at what price point,
I'd argue the hotels also benefit, you know.
the other business.
Water Street more than tourists spend more money on.
Yeah.
Residents.
And what we've looked at is, we put a report together for them, you know, there's only the Wick, the St. Charles.
Rivertown.
Rivertown,
Oh.
and, the Maker, and, there was one
The
other.
whaler.
The Whaler. And, you know, when you look at that, it's really a bell curve. Yeah, you've got the Maker at $600 and you have, the St. Charles at $110 a night.
My
And
in-laws paid 300.
at the St. Charles, on a weekend.
Over 300 for one night.
Wow.
Well,
And then they complained, it doesn't have this, doesn't have that. I said, well, if they're getting 300 a night, why would they spend money?
well, what we did is, we looked at 2
Chamberlain
dates.
30 years ago.
We looked at 4th of July weekend, which it is 300, but you know, a night in January,
Oh, sure. that's
during the
ridiculous.
week, you can get a Experian, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A hotel room for $99,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, there's not much in between.
The Wix runs about 180 on weekends.
I mean, Catskill's getting Hampton Inn soon, that should be. It's been a long.
The same deal with the sewer infrastructure, it has to be approved by the DEC, and they're not exactly known for having urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are gonna get 40 more rooms out of the pocketbook factory. They're gonna be high priced.
Yeah. One of our salesperson has been working there quite often. On their stuff.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
A motion made, all in favor? Aye.
I
They don't wanna go home, Ken. They like
I
you.
wanna go.
Another crowd today.
All right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank
Have a